Can you hear us on Zoom now?
Good.
There we go. All right. Sorry about that, everyone. We had some technical issues with our other rooms we had to move, and now we're ready to go.
Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to Project Wildfire Meeting. Just for the sake of time, let's just do quick introductions in the room, and then anyone else can do introductions on the chat. So over here with Commissioner Knight. Commissioner Colton. Greg Martin, Future Wood. Andy Meeuwsen with Century Financial, the insurance guy.
Have you heard the chief county commissioner?
Long name of the UK board. Our electing with G Creek.
Got insurance 390.
Kelly Russell, Kevin Cummins, which is Maria Allen, it was Benton.
Eric Hunter, for the Department of Work.
Kyle Otney, our roof with Pro Future.
Heidi Otney with Project.
Suzanne Butterfield, Aubrey, North Mutually.
Jeff Ford, Kim Sherman Park.
Good morning, David Mormon, American Red Cross.
And Kevin Moyer, County Force.
You have people online and you just start out.
Yeah, they usually have those.
I just chatter.
Yeah, if, could you please in the work could everyone please reintroduce in the chat? I know you did it right when it logged in, but it didn't save it because we had to move rooms. If you don't mind, so I have it for the meeting minutes, that would be great.
And I can just do a few announcements here. Probably the big announcement, at least for us, is we just put the 2024 BLM Community Fire Assistance grant application online. I had mentioned this a little bit in the last meeting. We have some funding through the Bureau of Land Management through Defensible.
Diane is there.
Yes. Just the sound and audio. Sound is horrible.
What did somebody else said?
How do you turn on the closed captioning? Maybe that works. Go there. There's that little thing.
I don't know. Then I have to remember to turn it off.
Susan, I just want to let you know that your iPad is unmuted.
So we have input signed up for getting bids during the event. I did send a questionnaire out for vegetation removal. Most people who responded they're already signed up for the bins, and they just, I guess maybe the assumption was you weren't getting the disposal with the bins itself. So if you're signed up for Deschutes County to pay for the bin services, it does include disposal as well. So whatever that cycle is in your neighborhood, if it's every week or every couple weeks, you need those things emptied and refilled or basic for places, what's a lot of that. That we will cover those services. There were a few folks that are not using bins that, would like some kind of vegetation removal, like basically picking up using trailers and things like that. We could probably accommodate that, but we're, I'm not trying to basically fund the neighborhood on both disposal and for bins. So, if you have any more questions, please reach out to me on that. And then you want to do. Yeah. Okay. And Chris got a couple updates as well.
Yeah, so we have Fire Creek for spring dates. And for the not landfill, we're doing, it's gonna be May 3rd through the 12th. The transfer stations, so Sisters, Redmond, and then the Pine transfer stations are gonna be June 3rd through the 8th. Or sorry, May 31st through June 8th. And then I'm still waiting to get, dates from Sunrib, right, you know, them. Even they wanna do it, so they usually do a weekend. So as soon as I have those, I will let everyone know. And then another update for Project Wildfire, we have 4 new steering committee. Please don't tell me that. 4 new steering committee, members. I wanted to announce those today. So, Melissa Steele from Bend Fire, is now sitting on the committee. Heather Miller from Oregon State Fire Marshal, office, and then Forrest Ward from Pacific Power. And Elizabeth Whitey,
Yeah.
Well, we already said it, right? Elizabeth Whitey is also. So we're gonna work on, there's just a couple, I think, 3 vacancies left, 3 or 4. If we want to get those filled, I'm still open to more people. But we're gonna try and plan a steering committee only meeting here. So, you updated on that. Yeah. So today, hopefully you guys can still hear us on Zoom. We have Andy Meeuwsen here from Project Financial to do a presentation for us on home insurance.
I'll try to share screen here, right?
Yes.
Do we know it's still working?
Hold on, I don't think it is.
We have some technical questions.
But I think, yeah.
This is what you're seeing.
We're back.
There, yeah.
Don't get too excited too fast.
No, this is already the third time.
But it's a charm.
Okay. I think they got it.
Afraid to hit it. What good. Figure.
Yeah, can you make it bigger?
What about that little share thing in the top corner?
You-
Can I click that?
Okay.
Want to do it? There we go.
Speaker. There we go. Thank you.
There we go. Okay. Alrighty. Am I on? Can I get started? Yeah, okay. Good. Good morning, everybody. My name is Andy Meeuwsen with Country Financial. I've been an insurance agent and a financial advisor since 2001. I live in Lapine, for the last 26 years. And, I like to think I have a pulse on the community and what we're dealing with. The big thing is, I kind of want to just show you what I'm dealing with, as well as ask a lot of questions from the group. For feedback, I didn't get any specific questions or topics that emailed to me that you wanted to discuss, so I'm sure those will come in to the discussion today. So most common questions to my office are, why did my home insurance go up 30%? You guys are looking at your renewals. I've had no claims or never had a home claim. Why does that affect my policy? Why is my current insurance carrier non-renewing me? What do you mean I do not have enough defensible space? Okay. And why won't your insurance company insure me? So these are a lot of questions that we're getting, I would say, over the last 9 to 12 months. I put number 6 on there, and am I covered for wildfire loss? Of course, that question gets brought up and phone calls into our office probably around June, when everybody is aware of the increased risk. But I always tell people, as of right now, fire is fire. Whether it's an electrical fire that burns down your house, or a food fire from inside, or a wildfire, it's all covered the same way. So, changes in fire guidelines for home insurance carriers. Full disclosure, I'm a captive agent, so I'm similar to a State Farm office or a American Family office, where they only offer their insurance products first, unless they do not carry that particular risk being asked to be insured for. So what's changed in the last 18 to 24 months? In 2022, and I think this is when I spoke a couple of years ago, or about a year and a half ago, on what was coming down. Insurance companies used to use fire protection glasses based on ISO guidelines. Okay, that's the Insurance Standards Organization guidelines. This was based on a score of 1 through 10. Okay, the 10 being the highest for unprotected fire protection class. Okay, so if you were in a 10, you're going to pay double than all your neighbors that are in town within 5 miles of a responding fire station. In 2024, some of them started in 2023. Insurance companies used wildfire scores based on their own algorithm and overlay maps, or from a select group of vendors that have come up with their proprietary risk algorithm and overlay maps, and they partner with the insurance carriers. CoreLogic, for example, is the one Country uses. I also believe State Farm uses that one, and these are based on a score of 1 to 100. Okay, so if you're talking to your insurance agent, you're talking to your insurance company, and you say, "What do you mean I'm in a score 92?" What that means is that insurance carrier and their overlay map has decided this is what your risk factor is, 100 being the worst, okay, 0 being the best. So this picture is taken from the CoreLogic marketing piece. This is a score 78 according to CoreLogic. Now, where this is, I don't know. I don't think it's in Oregon. It's probably somewhere in the Mountain States. But you can see there's a very nice house with basically in the forest, right? So this is a 78. This is doable for insurance companies. So this is taken directly from CoreLogic's marketing piece, and it basically talks about how wildfires since 2017 have been huge, 10 million acres burned in total for 2017. And unlike other natural hazards, which may not occur every year, wildfire damage is expected annually. The only questions are where and to what extent. As such, it is paramount to understand how susceptible each property is to wildfire and what factors influence the spread of wildfire, so you can begin to protect the health of your portfolio. So I like to highlight that it's specific. It's on a case by case. It's on a property by property. Now, it's not as big as a range per se for insurance carriers to decide if they want to insure it or not. So again, this is just another thing from CoreLogic. They select to cover 15 states, Oregon included. Okay. Let's see here. This is taken from Farmers, group selected farmer foremost signature underwriting guidelines. I like this piece of information because Foremost is the largest manufactured home insurer in the country. And where I live in the Pines, Southern Chiefs County, there is a high percentage of manufactured homes, new and old, on those properties. Farmer says properties with a geoprotect level 78 to 99 are ineligible if dwelling coverage is $1 million or more, the responding fire station is not within 5 miles, or the property is isolated or nearly accessible by fire apparatus due to road terrain conditions. Guess what? That's quite a bit of southern. So additional company reviews required for geoprotect levels, dwelling coverage under $1 million or less. What that means is insurance companies are trying to get off of this. They are trying to say, sorry, you don't meet our guidelines because we feel our actuarial underwriting data feels that you're at super high risk and you don't want to be in the bonds if a wildfire comes through. This next piece is changes in fire guidelines. Oh, I'm sorry.
I have a question.
Yeah.
In that case, then that house that we just saw would not be, since it was a 78, it would not be insurable. I mean, that was
It would not be insurable if there was not adequate defensible space. You guys have talked about dispensable space and things quite a bit. They look at the 0 to 30 feet range and the 30 to 100 feet range when they're determining adequate defensible space. Those are some of the big numbers you can remember to share with your friends, your neighborhoods, that insurance companies are really zeroing in and taking specific looks at what you have 0 to 30 feet from your structure and 0 to 100 feet, or that second zone, that 30 to 100 feet. Okay. So, I mean, you just went over, distance and access considerations are engaged in the defensible space would be a top. Correct. Meaning if you have a beautiful property, everything's set back, but you have some dry shrubbery within 10 feet of your house. You can say, oh, there's no way a wildfire is going to come through here, but I have specific pictures and situations I'll show you later on where they're like, no, we're not going to insure the space. What do we have to do to make this property insurable for a country or State Farm or Safeco or whoever? And then if they're willing to work with the customer and willing to work with the agent, they will tell you, okay, you do this, then we'll reconsider. Okay, again, I'll show you a few of those examples. And again, I want to take this as an opportunity to interrupt me and ask a question when you have it, as well as show the struggles that the homeowner, my client, and insurance agent trying to offer insurance for the client is kind of dealing with. Sometimes struggling with.
Can I interrupt one more question?
do each of these, providers, I know that, do they have an assessment form that the property owner would use if they would interact with these agencies?
No. Some may have special programs. A lot of the carriers are niche carriers, meaning they cherry pick their risks. Some of the big ones like Chuck Root, who primarily work with high net worth individuals, things of that nature, they may have from those things, but for the general public, it's no. The insurance underwriter will take a Google Maps picture of your property, which, as we know, might be 5, 6, 10 years old. And a lot of trees may have been cut back, but they'll see the picture and they'll go, nope, trees. And you have to go out there, you have to measure, and you have to throw on your boxing gloves with the underwriter and try to show why you, as a field underwriter, the agent, are think this is a good risk. So, you're welcome. So in my company, scores over 70, and you mentioned even the 78, require additional documentation to show defensible space before they are eligible for issuing home insurance coverage. And then scores from 90 to 100 require additional photos from all sides and measurements with proof of distance between trees from a structure. In addition, any underwriter also has subjective underwriting authority, whether they will accept the risk or not. And I'm going to go into that a little more in detail as well. And if I start going too long, maybe one of you guys could signal so we know respect each other's time. Okay. So here's the big one I kind of mentioned before, the 30 feet from the home, 30 to 100 feet. Okay. So these are the big ones that you can use, and Project Wildfire, and I believe saw them at the county fairgrounds one time. They had a booth, and they have a better picture type presentation, just basically spelling out these exact things. The big ones are tree limbs should be trimmed up at least 6 feet from the ground around the dwelling and structures, and there should be 10 feet of separation between larger trees. So what would you guys say is a large tree? The insurance companies think this is a large tree.
Trunk to trunk or crown to crown?
That is the frustration and the problem. That's a great question. I would think it's 10 feet from trunk to trunk.
They're saying.
Crown?
They're saying crown to crown. That's impossible around here.
Is it speaking independent?
No. You got your aspens mixed in with your lodgepole and ponderosa pines, and it's very difficult. And I stress the word subjective, because subjective means I can put a little of my own personal take on whether I think this is a good or a bad risk, and make those decisions on behalf of the insurance carrier. So remember, these underwriters, we're talking billions and billions of dollars that they're trying to make sure that they're pricing appropriately for the risk. So they've already planned on a large catastrophic loss that they can honor their promises to their customers. So I thought this was a good slide to show everybody. Again, Project Wildfire, and what's the other, Firewise USA, they're going to reference these as well. Okay.
I got a question about, what if you have a tree that's, let's say 15 feet away from the trunk's 15 feet away from the house, but it's large enough where the canopy sort of overhangs the house. So should that go down? I mean,
In many cases, yes.
okay.
Okay. Question.
Yeah, in my experience, the spacing of the trees, and the amount of trees, especially around the house, is one of the biggest things that keeps coming up when talking with property owners. And I think there's a lot of misunderstanding. And when they have these templates, it's kind of like a, like a formula or universal kind of spacing. And, I think it, more like on a case by case basis. Sometimes you can have 3 trees that are close to each other, but they're like in a group. You can count them as like 1 tree. And then you're looking at the space in between the canopies. So if the trees are limbed up, even if they're around the house, a lot of times they're not really a fire risk. Now, I don't know how insurance companies are viewing this, but,
I would feel the same,
but studies have actually shown that trees around the house, as long as they're healthy and limbed up and everything, they actually can help protect the house from say, timber storms.
yes, and I went through, I think you might have been there too, at that NFPA training where we can discern that, talked about how crown fires, you know, go through the top, and sometimes certain trees may protect structures from the embers getting down into the housing and whatnot. Personally, I don't think the insurance companies care. They're going based on their mathematical data or scientific data, based on the wind patterns and the drought conditions. And they're saying, we know 6-7 years from now, this is going to be really bad. Now, as we know, based on snowpack, wind pattern, that can change from year to year. So my question to my insurance company and other insurance companies is, well, does that mean your evaluations are going to change from year to year? The answer I get is no. So that leads to, I think I'm going to talk about this in another slide, is most people here in the Central Oregon, which is the forested areas, you know, they probably and they're grandfathered in for now, meaning even though in today's guidelines since 2024, we would not write this risk, you're grandfathered in. So, for example, I have an acre in Lapine off Sunrise Boulevard, and I think it's a very nice, well-kept property. I've taken a lot of pride in that. But my wife, I said, you know, what's funny is if you were to come to me today, the country, and ask me to insure this house, it would be a flat no. I said, yeah, cut that tree down, this tree down, this tree down. She goes, you're not touching it. And so that is a common conversation that I'm having with current clients, prospects, and things of that nature that want to work with, let's say, country insurance, and they just, sorry, Charlie, you're in a wildfire score 100. But look at this, look at these pictures, look at these distances. Sorry, you're in a wildfire score 100. So that's becoming more and more and more common. I have now, over the last 2 years, befriended most of my competitors, and we are all in the same boat. We're all trying to work together. I mean, I got State Farm people over in the valley who are insuring properties in Black Butte and Caldera Springs. Like, Andy, we can't do anymore. What can we do? What can country do? I'll call a buddy who's a broker who works like Safeco or Allstate or something. Can you run this through your system and see if it'll qualify? And we're just trying to find this client or this prospect insurance because they got a mortgage. And if they have a mortgage, they have to have fire or hazard or homeowners insurance, whatever they call it. And it's getting harder and harder to do. And the mortgage company doesn't care. They're like, you get hazard insurance or you're not closing the loan. So that brings anxiety and stress onto the homeowner. And then the process of trying, let's say you're working with a mortgage broker. I mean, they have referral partnerships. They're like, I'm always going to call Andy, we're going to get this done. I'm always going to call George, and we're going to get this done. Now it's like, I got to call 20 offices and then wait for a decision, a preliminary decision that may or may not hold true. And that's the process. You can't bind policies the way you used to, you know, give that 30 days of guaranteed coverage while you're closing on the house. It's getting very frustrating. Yes.
You mentioned grandfathering. Could you describe what grandfathering is?
So I've had my policy with Country since 2006. Okay, so I made my payments, they collected my premium over the last, now 18 years. So if, they do some broadening new underwriting rules and say, we want off these risks, they're gonna consider me already part of the old system and they won't treat me that way. It's based on the company. Specifically. based
Not
on
all
the
of the
company.
grandfathers.
When this was all coming down with the state law regarding the defensible space overlay map that they retracted, remember that? And then they put it back out. The state of Oregon Insurance Commissioner's Office, it's called something else now, but they put out a memo and email to every insurance agent saying you cannot tell your clients and prospects that they're not getting insurance because of what the state's doing. It's totally irrelevant because each insurance company has their own overlay now. And it may be different from the state, so you better not be saying that or we're gonna find you. Because they were all, worried about it. So they kept saying, hey, well, State Farm uses their own algorithm, Country uses their own algorithm, Allstate uses their own algorithm. Now they may be using the same vendor, CoreLogic, for example. So it's all the same, but it's based on how big the company is. I mean, State Farm's the biggest home and auto insurance carrier in the country. I was told by realtors in Blackview Ranch that State Farm will not insure anyone in Blackview.
Oh,
So if you're buying a property and you call your State Farm agent you worked with for 30 years, saying, I got buying this $2 million house in Blackview, sorry.
I actually had a problem when my house had a fire go around it and our insurance company would not cover us. So we had to go to the California Fair Plan. That fire had 359 homes burned. It was the top of the Santa Monica Mountains. But because of the Fair Plan, I was talking to our legislators months ago and I said, we do have a policy in Oregon, but it's really minimal. It really doesn't cover what people's houses are worth now. And I said, legislators, you need to start doing something because of what is happening to the industry.
No, I was gonna, that was my question coming here today, is California has a fair plan. The way I understand it is, people need insurance. And California State Insurance Commissioner says, okay, State Farm or XYZ company, if you insure properties in this state, then you have to take part of it's kind of like an assigned risk program. And so say State Farm has 30% of that's just the number I can market share. Say they have 30% of the insured, the insurance in that area. They have to take on up to 30% of the assigned risk in California, it's called the Fair Plan. So that way people can definitely get insurance. The premiums are another story. They can charge more, but they can't outright reject the insurance if they're doing business in there. So
That's correct. Oregon's the same way, but a couple of factors there that I'm aware of is that you can't get liability. It's just for the structure. Okay. And then it's capped in Oregon, $600.
Right. That was what I was asking the legislators to please look at. And you don't want the California Fair Plan. We were supposed to have USAA and I said, the fire's gone around. We survived it pretty well. And USAA would not reconsider. I think it took me 2 years to get back to USAA. So, but it eventually they did cover it. So, but the policy was supposed to start December 1st and the fire was November 2nd. So in there, they said, no, we're not going to, we're going to sign plan. No way.
Andy, isn't another problem with that minimal plan that banks won't lend against that? That
Yes.
kind of covers.
Yeah, because it's actual cash value coverage, meaning appreciated value, and all your loan or replacement costs. So it's been a conundrum the last 18 months for people I work with. And sometimes again, it's irrelevant. You're within a part of town and you're a wildfire score 35. I'm going to show you a crazy picture here in a little bit, which just again amplifies the frustration and everything like this. I want to hit a few things real quick, with my time to share with you here today. This next page is 90 to 100. Again, this is a country guideline, but eligibility will vary by state. Where eligible, underwriting evaluation be required, and policy will be unbound. Dwelling and premise photos showing defensible space must be submitted, blah, blah, blah. Unbound means they can change their mind. And you're going to the very end, you're closing, you're getting ready to sign, and if that insurance company changes their mind at the last minute, which they can, everyone is SOL. So back to better.
And which level are you?
90 to 100,
90.
and southern Deschutes County is almost all 90. Caldera Springs, where they're building all those homes. are at 90. I make it 3 or 4 trips out a week to that area, try and take pictures and say, yeah, we want to insure this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
fire station.
Like I showed you, the fire station distance doesn't matter anymore with wildfires. They say, well, if a wildfire's coming through, whether there's a station there or not, it's irrelevant. So when I argue that, I said, look, there's a fire hydrant literally right by the driveway. Doesn't matter.
You know, it would be interesting to invite somebody from the National Fire Protection Association, because I just learned of the Project Wildfire Meeting. I did a little bit of it and learned that NFPA was partnered with the government, and they're now sharing data from fire protection at a very local level, across 13 states, Oregon being one of them. And that's really, but it's to help understand how fire-wise communities are mitigating what effect that has. Right. Sure.
I would love to see that, all these communities.
I was gonna try to wait to get discuss this, but I just want everyone to know that the legislature, short session happening right now. There is a Senate bill 1511 sponsored by Senator Golden that would create a grant program through the state fire marshal's office for neighborhood protection cooperatives. Essentially, it's a way neighborhood. I guess I'll read the title with it, but essentially, it's a way for the state to deliver technical assistance and funds that cost share to landowners. And then the idea is that somehow that work would be recognized by the insurance industry, by private insurance. So it gets to what we're talking about, like how, the question is how you can pump a bunch of money into private middlemen and you can pump a bunch of technical assistance, which we've done here in this community for decades. But then how do you get the insurance industry to recognize that and not just use cookie cutter models to assess your so I just want everyone to know that there's an active bill the county's tracking, and I don't think we've sent a letter of support yet or testimony on that bill. But it's also something that Project Wildfire might be interested in weighing in on and trying to figure out. I mean, there's a lot of experience in this community that could be valuable to people who are trying to pass this legislation. Like that, how do you actually do stuff that the insurance company can recognize in the way that they evaluate risk separately.
Is there any discussion that can be made for, or giving incentives, like how you say it?
So USAA and State Farm have a little thing out there that they say pays extra premium, recognize you as the principal space. Somehow they'll partner with the responders to make sure that when they're prioritizing saving a house in a wildfire, yours will be prioritized. How that works, I have no clue how they would. But, so they're charging an extra premium to give them extra peace of mind that they'll be taken care of. I don't know how you can enforce that in the home. But, you know, and granted, if it all happens, if they have coverage on the day of loss, they're going to pay under their plans. That's 99% of insurance companies do that. But time it takes to make the client whole again. Fair.
Here's the key thing, it's Fund River and Sister, I had a 30% increase in other things that I was talking from USA. So it was like, it's like a 30% for what I find.
Or again, we go listen, Thursday, that's increase.
Do you know if the insurance companies recognize all the fire mitigation like Sun River does in their common areas?
You would think,
Would that be?
you would think that they still come up with that. If it's the high score, they don't care.
Yeah, and
They're 100.
Our properties are pretty private property amongst common ground, so even the Sun River as a whole, just the common ground does their work, the homeowners is still required to do their.
And then there's the problem with places like Blackview, Caldera Springs, Sun River. They got rules. You can't just go in there as a homeowner and say, well, I need to cut down these trees so I can get affordable insurance. It's like, oh. So then there's the argument with the homeowner association or the resort area and the lot purchaser, and it's just kind of.
Yeah, I've also got like 2.5 miles of railroad. Which is backing up to on my property, and a lot of properties, and structures will be within 20, 30 feet of theirs, and that they're a lot very nice. So so in a lot of cases, they're gonna be at 100.
Yeah, let me get to a couple of pictures I want to show you. So this one you're looking at right now is a.
Oh, just it on Senate Bill 1511, it has passed out of committee, it is cut into ways and means, and it has a shot. So if you all wanted to like send a message over, explain what that might be, then
The name of the program and upgrade is like neighborhood protection cooperative framework. Neighborhood protection cooperative framework.
Guys, they can't hear any of the questions on Zoom or any of these discussions besides Andy, so they're asking if we can wait to do questions till the end, so they can hear the presentation.
Okay. So I want you to remember this picture. It's the house on the left. This is the new house in Caldera Springs. And it was in a wildfire score 100, and I got it declined. Okay, so country would not write it. So I had to scramble, call buddies in the business and say, hey, check see if safe go write this policy or USAA or USAA rep. Okay, but here's some of the trees that my company said you gotta get rid of. Gotta get rid of. Okay, got it, you're too close, gotta get rid of. Okay, so I want you to remember that property. Here's a real quick thing to note. These are the top 5 states and what the average premium is for a $350,000 house. Oregon's is not quite as bad, 1703. Again, this is Oregon, so it's counting all the metro areas and all that kind of stuff. But 2 years ago, the average was 1,089, and 2018 was 760. So it's doubled, almost. You said 70%. So when you factor in the issues of, I think the median home price is at 700. You know what I'm saying? So those premiums are going to reflect that. So issues clients are facing, most insurance carriers premiums have doubled in the last 36 months across the board. Factors include inflationary values of building materials as well as construction labor, but carriers are now facing factoring in increased wildfire risk for renewal and new business premiums. So what I talk to customers about is increasing their deductibles from 500 to 1,000 to 5,000 and 10,000. And depending on what your income level is, will be correlated with fixed income, that it's not going to fly $10,000 deductible. reduce your dwelling coverage. No one wants to do that, especially when properties are appreciating and reduce or remove outbuildings from coverage. The most common home claim is a water damage claim, is approximately $8,000 to $10,000 claim payout. If you have a $10,000 deductible, you're always gonna pay for that out of pocket. And one house here in Bend, they've got 3 water damage claims in the last 18 months, and she just hears, but it's all crazy things about, you know, the bridge when they put it back after redoing the board, they get connected right, flooded, everything, destroyed the board. I mean, she bad luck, and she's in here saying, you're gonna cancel, and they said, well, we'll deal with that when that happens, but, you know, it's just a little $10,000 claim here, $10,000 claim here, $10,000. I'm not going to get into the manufactured homes as much, but I would be happy to present again and have a conversation about that. I have this in here because that, again, that's a big section of my book of business. But the facts are that even the manufactured homes, the older ones that built in the 90s, need a loan, buy the property, and the company doing the loan has to, you have to have homeowner's insurance, and it's just so hard to get there. Eagle Crest is having wildfire sport issues. Oh, just a little shrubbery out there anyway, there's nothing out there.
My in-laws lost their house there. They were in Eagle Crest, they were on the ridge, and there was a fucking fire. It ignited. It's a fluke, and the fire ran up the slope to, you know, in the canyon and right up to the house, where they had a huge juniper tree. Very close to a house, went up and flamed black smoke.
I mean, Core Logic is not just going based off of field. So aspect, surface composition, drought, wind, all these things.
The wind patterns, I think, are big.
Yeah.
Right now. And that's what I hear from the people who are smarter than me, is that, like, you know, yeah, you're not necessarily in a drought from your perspective, but the wind pattern changes are what the scientists are to look at. The wind's going up, and as you know, the fires.
Yeah, look at fires like that, fire that ripped through St. Scott areas at incredible speeds. I mean, people that part of there, and whatever people like.
Yeah, and it took 15 minutes. It wasn't long. The firefighters came to the door and told them, you have 15 minutes to get out. And they banged on the door about 5 minutes later, said, you have to go now.
So again, these are a list of struggling areas for me that I have customers, prospects that want to work in my office that we can't place insurance. I put Lapine in there. There's big communities of developments, and it's so weird that I consider them all the exact same risk. And Wagon Trails is 68, Klamath County, Ponderosa Pines is 100, and it's just frustrating. But here is a slide I got. Populated areas in Sun River are predominantly exposed to wildfire from direct sources such as this and bundle of vegetation. Basically, they circled all of this area that it's 100. They don't want anything with it. This was not country. This was another piece I found, but I'm going, that's like that. It's everywhere. All those little orange places are lots. Okay, I want to show you some pictures now. So this was a decline. Now this was a unique property. I think it's pretty, but you can see it was a manufactured home at one time and then got added onto. It's kind of a cool little place. You know, but look, you know, they take care of the property. They've done some areas and it looks like, hey, they're doing the defensible space stuff, but no, insurance company want nothing to do with it. And they just highlighted that red area and say, nope.
That's on celestial.
I tried to get it.
So you did.
I worked at that house,
The trees down for them to build that.
yeah, and we did some other trees too. We trimmed up a lot of trees around the structure, but we just the mobile home, and they built that additional shop.
Yeah.
For we can use. but that butts up to, is that all BLM right there?
I don't remember. But, you know, the problem is these carriers, we're sending in these cool pictures and then they're looking at these pictures. And when you're talking 10 feet between crown to crown, well, look, that's impossible. Here's a manufactured home that was defined, but as you can see, there's like put up against it. They're ponderosa pines, but they don't care. I was able to get this insured to another company. So that was good, but they don't like this. Okay, here's a Caldera Springs decline I just went through. And again, there's houses everywhere there. But all these trees are circling, like, no, can't be there. Even all these other, I have insurance with other carriers right next door, say, no, can't be there. Okay, here's my car taking a picture. Okay, and so here's the above circle map that I got from the underwriters. Saying, oh, those are too many trees. Now this, the right-hand side, they're gonna develop that and they're gonna start. But there's no specific timeline, so I can't say the country saying, well, in 18 months, it's gonna look totally different. They're like, what is it now?
So they're underwriting by satellite?
Sometimes.
Oh, I have a question.
Okay, here's my favorite one. Okay. So this is one I just told you, it was a 93 and the trees are too close. Can't argue anymore, okay? So look at this 68 here. This property owner owns two properties and they're right across from the golf course. One is a 68, one is a 93. 68 went through underwriting, no problem.
Well, the trees on 68 are a lot smaller than 93. Oh, they're not.
Oh, this drove me insane. I said, there's golf course here. That's the biggest fire break I've ever seen. So what I did is we were able to write the 68 and her primary home in McMinnville, but we left the 93 because it was already insured with another carrier. And I said, don't ever let this policy down. I will need that advice. And she knows all her neighbors are having the same problem. Okay, here's one we got a tentative approval on. They are gonna cut those trees back. In fact, they're, as soon as the snow was gone, they were gonna cut those trees back. We just got this approved because we cut the trees back, but they were too close. This one on the right was a little home on the pine, and the trees are too close. Okay, they're almost touching the house. Even though the rest of the side, the left side was totally clear 100 feet from around the structure, but those ones right next to the house, nope. This one was originally defined, but in the circle sections, they removed a lot of the trees, so I got it approved 6 months later. Okay. This was a decline. Good. No.
Oh, that's what people are afraid of, that they're just gonna. They're gonna property.
Well, like in the Sun River community, those homeowners are required to, like, if there's a leaf tree close to a structure or hanging over the chimney or near the roof, do insurance companies acknowledge if those trees are crown cleaned or trimmed to a certain height? Sometimes.
Not if they're in the 90 to 100.
Okay, it wouldn't matter. Because I know a lot of times that community will do stuff to meet Sun River specs, which they're going off of ODF, but I know what you're saying is different.
Not the 90 to 100. In my experience, I'm sharing my experience. This was one very pretty home, but you can see that tree right in the corner there. It's there for aesthetics, but they're like, no way. These were too close. Yeah, they cut back all those trees.
All of everything that's
Circle, yeah.
So it doesn't matter if it's a deciduous or evergreen? Doesn't matter.
This was a Sun River Resort decline. But look at this. I mean, they got trees. Yeah.
Oh, what about the high tavern?
That tree's been nothing about. Yes.
Can you, when you're showing us these examples, can you tell us, I know some communities, what the house is, built with? In other words, if whether, like, so I'm seeing metal roof.
Yeah, that cement hardy, like whatever they call it.
Hardy
Yeah, the agent will make sure that the underwriter knows that. But again, it comes down to the specific insurance company or carrier, and the subjective decision-making by that specific underwriter looking at the property. I think if you can afford to do it, because this is going to be a bonus if you have to obtain different insurance.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if a fire actually happens. And I'm just going through these to some of the clients, but, yeah, I mean, it just.
The one thing I personally think is if you have wood furniture outside your house, I know I was always moving that furniture. If we were having a fire, it was like, if you cannot, if you've got cushions, all that is gonna catch on fire. It's frightening.
So I've put a small fire out in Caldera on a work day before. I'm driving by a home and I saw some smoking in the bark dust. And it was all that landscape bark mulch. And I was looking over and I thought, it's such a hot day. I was like, I see that right. So I jumped out. Sure enough, about a 20 square foot section, worker put his cigarette butt out in the bark. Now we're still bark mulching all the way up to these homes, and I don't understand why. That's the kind of fire.
Pepper, because if there's a wind, those peppers in LA will flow for 2 or 3 miles.
Yes, you show Caldera home with all that like fescue grass in the bark mulch. It's like, that looks like a fire hazard, even though they re-landscaped it. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I know the trees are one thing, but also some of the landscape that gets put in is also.
A lot of the HOAs require that landscape. We changed this.
Oh, okay.
Totally rewritten our design guide. Get rid of, because we used to encourage trees and shrubs and bark mulch in the 0 to 5 foot stuff, which is totally backwards for a fire stuff. So now it needs to be hardscape.
Yeah, and I could be wrong. Maybe some of these neighborhoods have changed.
But it's slower. And there's still a lot of HOAs that fight taking trees down. Like we opened up the ability to take down the Brooklyn University. We have millions of them. And they're not flammable. So, starting to get there, but a lot of neighborhoods are included that spent decades building fuel up. And now we're trying to reverse it. So we're doing the things that we need to do for defensible space.
Yeah, in Sun River, it's up on the road that even they're very hesitant to let allow you to move on the road.
Yeah, we need full arborist reports. I mean, the tree has to be assessed. There's quite a bit to go through just to remove a part of the tree in the southern community.
I remember when they first started building in Sun River a while back, and they were required to have shake shingle roofs, and no one was allowed to remove any shrubbery, take out any trees, limb trees, anything. And then the Aubrey Hall fire, and I think especially the Skeleton Butte fire really got their attention when houses started burning down. And then they did a complete 180, and now they required things that required not to have things that they were required to have before. So communities need to come up to speed.
We don't have too much more time. Like, how much do you have left on here? I'm going to just breeze through a few of these. So this is the pine. I thought this is perfect. Look at all that defensible space, but then you see this red area circled. They didn't like that because they were too close to an outbuilding, and all outbuildings on the property. Okay, so this was approved recently out at Past Sisters, and I had to fight really hard for this one because they were actually actively clearing the 100-foot space during the time. But this area, see the areas on the right, those trees. Those are just little ornamental leaf trees.
Yeah.
And anyway, that was about a back and forth for 2 weeks about those trees. Okay. So remember that tree or that one picture I showed in the beginning of the Caldera that I did get approved. So one of my buddies up here in Bend, who's a country agent, said, "Hey, look what I just got approved in Caldera Springs." I started looking closer. I go, "That's the exact same one I got declined earlier." So So I got a little upset and I said a few things to some corporate people. That just shows the subjective authority of these underwriters. Personal business factors, hardest insurance market in the last 40 years. It's hard to bundle and save those clients the 20 to 30% on the homeowner's insurance or on the auto insurance, and you can't write their home. Hey, Andy, I want to bring everything to you. Well, I can't write your home because this modifier is 400, so I can't insure. Well, I'm not going to give you my 4 cars for insure either. So as an agent trying to make a living, that's very frustrating. The last little factor here, besides Southern Shute County, worst areas for wildfire scores of 9,200 in Southern Oregon and Northeastern Oregon at 15%. That means country agents that are quoting, those areas are 15% of 90 to 100 quoting the property. That's your score. For me, I'm at 47%. I lead the whole Pacific Northwest. So people do pity me because I can't write it. But it's just one of those things. This was a picture I took out at a wagon trail, and I saw the Firewise USA. So I wanted to end this conversation with, you know how you have to purchase separate flood insurance, you have to purchase separate earthquake insurance. Maybe it will become some type of hybrid where you purchase wildfire insurance and put a factor into the regular insurance. I don't know. It's a thought, like that. So I appreciate your time. I could talk forever on this subject, but I'll try to open it to questions and comments.
I did a lot of what you noticed today. People are scratching their heads about like, why is that a 90 and why is that a 60 and all that. At this point, I'm very familiar with the wildfire, that the state's wildfire hazard overlay map and kind of the factors and how much weight is put on each one. I am really curious about the model that you're using, that your underwriter is using. And I'm wondering if it's possible for us to see like that. I mean, is it just kind of like a black box that we, the people outside the insurance industry like don't
We like to say this is proprietary information, making us profitable compared to everybody else.
I mean, if it's a map, if there is a map with like, with like 0 to 100 scores across it, it would be really interesting to see a map of Hughes County and then to dig in a little bit to like, well, what are the factors? How do we, I see there, grab the.
Yeah, well, I mean, maybe you tell me if this is something that is, for others, but if you go into like the website, Mozilla or Redfin or whatever, there is now, you can go, it'll tell you the wildfire score. And that's using for logic, but I don't know, still maybe interpreted differently by each one of these.
So you can mine Redfin.
Yeah.
Draw me a map of.
And it's still, we did it the other day at some other meeting that we had where it was all kind of baffled. We were each looking up our own phones. Yeah.
Well, my team did a project like that 18 months ago when all this stuff was coming down, but it was so labor intensive and the numbers were so random, we couldn't define an area. Well, this area is 90, this area is 60. It was so like I showed you that golf course picture, 68, 93 within 1,000 feet of each other. It was too hard, and I can't afford to spend my time on that.
There's people on, I mean, the last 2.5 years, people have been freaking out about the state wildfire hazard risk. When they don't even actually have your insurance coverage at all. So what people could really be concerned about is the internal proprietary and models, but I think what I'm hearing is we have we don't get to see that.
I think they need to put pressure on the insurance companies to share this information. Because I've asked for that CoreLogic map for my area. I've never been in.
So you're saying what they're putting on their sites is not.
No, I'm sure it's accurate,
Yeah.
but I'm sure that's what the score is. But if you're looking at all the adjacent properties, it'd be fun to see if the scores are the same.
Right.
Is there somewhere that the association anything like with that be able to report that on?
I don't know.
I'm just wondering.
I don't.
I know Anson,
They real quick, we got 10 minutes left. We usually save this for a round table. I don't think like really good discussion going on right now, so if everyone's good with it, we'll just continue with the discussion, unless everyone wants to do a round. Good with discussion? Okay, and I'm happy to, elaborate a little more at a future meeting or something like that, and also give me time to investigate, get some information to share with you guys, especially if you have specific questions, like, I mean, try to give me that for a lot. I'll share it with you. I mean, I'm there for the customer. I'm an agent for the customer. And,
Well, my understanding is a lot of the insurance companies subdividing is done by zip code. You know, I'm glad to hear that you're willing to go out with individual properties, that sort of thing, but firewise, you know, you missed that. We generally understood not be a recognized risk mitigator by insurance companies or it comes out. But don't a lot of them just look at zip codes and don't take the time to go to individual properties and the zip code if they don't like that zip code?
yeah, foremost will not write in the line Victoria. And I befriended the farmer agent, and foremost is the arm of farmers. You know, she's like, I want to retire, I can't make it. Yeah, I'm going to retire. For my referral.
Well, so we might not be able to get the information from the insurance company, but it might be possible to invite a speaker from CoreLogic or a speaker from NFPA or Verisk, which is, as I, listen to you, maybe Verisk is very similar to CoreLogic in terms of what they're doing, providing services to insurance companies, and it might be worthwhile, have Verisk, that's what they're doing, sharing.
I would be happy to reach out to my people and see if I can obtain a contact from CoreLogic and let them know that I'm part of this committee and would like to hear from them. I can make that effort.
So I have some, my concerns with people are now going to be renting their properties based on what the writer is coming up with as opposed to what is actually going to help people. I'm curious what kind of training underwriters have to go through. Do they need to use credit? Like how's that come?
They need insurance CE credits, so it's insurance industry credits. If you are an insurance, if you work in the insurance, you have to every 2 years do continuing education and to renew your license. But just like every trade, like the contractors, the plumbers, there's a whole new generation that has started working, and so their experience is zero, and they're making underwriting decisions that agents have relied on relationships with underwriters for 20, 30 years, and they know what they are looking for, right? So you don't have to waste your time arguing, but all those people are tired. So I don't think those underwriters like you asked, I don't think they know everything.
Well, I asked that question because for any of the agency partners who are online or in the room, maybe that's where we can try to interact with those underwriters. Because I'm sure that they didn't go to school for, if they didn't take classes in wildfire behavior.
That would be my, maybe if you go to a wildfire class, fire 1, fire 2.
Yeah, and just know, agents, customers, 0. They cannot talk to underwriters. Agents, less and less you can talk directly to underwriters. They don't want you influencing their.
So yeah, well, but if they came from like an agency or is that here, maybe they.
Oh, yeah. Oh, Kevin, join the slide. Introduce yourself to the room.
Hi, I'm Shannon.
I'm just here, I'm a property. I'm a property manager for long-term enforcement, so I've been here for a couple different. We have an online.
You have described a number of them today, U.S. agents who are advocating for property. And in some cases, trying to explain, what we know from our experience in our community is that this kind of tree, at this distance from your house, isn't a risk
There are other things that like pay attention to. How do, I mean, there's a lot of expertise in this room. How do these people, and we were just getting at it before. And underwriters to, you know, to wildland fire behavior class or something like that. But how do, you know, how does wildfire, fire departments, how does the Oregon forestry, extended how you know, individual firewise communities, how do we provide input or feedback to the industry in a way that improves their understanding of what's a risk and what's not. You know, what you should be doing to your property to make it more resilient. That's a bigger question to ask than single agent, and you can say that, but like, that's what it is, because I went down those roads and tried to open up those doors and I just keep getting them shut, so it may be just me working for a small company. But I know my friends in the industry that work for State Farm, that work for brokers, we're all dealing with the same stuff. So if we could get a group together and say, hey, we're competitors, but we're all dealing with this wildfire issue that none of our carriers want to write affordable premiums or even the risk at all, maybe that would be something to put together.
I mean, is there a role for Wildfire or somebody else here that way convening, like getting those agents together? I mean, would it be?
I would want to see if there's a resource first, because I don't have the manpower to do that myself. But,
Andy, we have a question online.
yeah,
Do you have suggestions for those who have second homes in Central Oregon or those who rent them?
Insurance carriers are steering and getting away that if they don't write your primary home, wherever it is, whether it's in the valley or in another state, they're going to start non-renewing those second homes or those short-term or long-term vacation rentals. Because there's the higher chance that nobody's there when a wildfire comes through to try to mitigate stuff from happening. So my advice to customers is that get all your properties insured with whoever's insuring your primary home, because it's going to become more and more prevalent over the next 2 years. Yeah.
Yeah, I live in South Beach County as well. And for over 50 years, I've understood that our whole region is high-risk. But some areas, I mean, it really, the landscape isn't mono, you know, there's some firewise communities, for instance. Just my own experience on the property that I'm on. The last 30 years, I've been working every year on defensible space. And I've been insured with State Farm this whole time. And they sent somebody out to take some pictures and stuff. And the feedback I got was, you're fine, even though I'm in F2 forest zone and surrounded by national forest and a lot of wildfire risk. But if I wasn't a continuing insured person, and I was looking for insurance right now, is this, you know, you're showing these pictures and it seems so arbitrary.
It is that, yeah. So again, it's that site by site, and the grandfathering in you asked about earlier. You know, being with State Farm that long does carry some weight. So unless State Farm was threatening to non-renew you, then I would not mess around shopping your insurance, even if it's higher than State Farm just raised me up 50%. I'm going to get some quotes from other people. You do your due diligence, but I would take very serious thought before trying to switch your home insurance. Someone who's been with so long, that if you want to come back, or that insurance company that you were thinking about going to change your mind, then you're have anything else.
I was using myself for example, but my concern is more for those people that are moving into the area. They sell their house, buy another house. And they're starting from zero, and if they're underwriting from 20,000 feet, you know, and they're just, because I've seen those like those satellite pictures, and it just looks like it's all trees everywhere. And you can see the tops of some houses, but if you're on the ground, somebody's actually assessing what's going on a particular property or a particular neighborhood, it can be really different.
Yeah, I just wanted to describe the universe, the home insurance and where we live last 18 months. Gee,
Yeah, thanks for coming.
got one more question for the meeting.
I did sort of a more higher level general, question, and I think Patty, Phil, Kevin, is you're working with Senator Golden, sort of on behalf of our region at the state level and other legislators. I think it's logical to see the I mean, I worked on this really closely for, in 2019, when we sort of did the precursors to Senate Bill 762. Insurance was one of those pieces that we were watching really carefully. Here we are today, this is what we got. And it's really part of the private marketplace, sort of independently reacting to reduce risk as much as possible. I think my question is for this whole group and probably our entire region, and maybe even like, you know, Western and Eastern Oregon and along the Cascades, is how do we begin to share information that works together? And is there anything in the short session that makes sense for us that would help integrate information and share efforts and change the way the insurance companies look at and assess, given the fact, as you said today, it's so very subjective, and it doesn't necessarily directly, the work that we're doing in Deschutes County that we know and we've learned is effective in many of our communities and around our houses, that the insurance companies aren't necessarily including that. Looking at the work that we're doing for us and looking at the work we're doing for Firewise. So how do we integrate that? And is there, what can we do now? Is there anything that we should be doing in this moment in time as the legislature is in short session that will just, whether or not it's funding, whether or not it's policies? I'm asking the question, I don't know the answer, but I'm sure there's people in this room who have some conceptual ideas of how to coordinate and integrate. And that seems to be really good.
Again, the Senate Bill 1511, it tries to expand the work that private landowners are doing, and then give them credit for it being with insurers, as they're making decisions about coverage premiums. So I mean, that's, and we're far along enough in the short legislative session that if there's no new bills, I mean, it's, you know, you got what you got.
So I did send text to a couple of my representatives about how to put that all that, and the president goes over my time. So they know it's important. They're from all over the country.
But it is true that these questions about like how the insurance industry gives people credit for the work that they've done and better recognizes resiliency work that is done at the community level, that then there's probably opportunities to provide input to because, you know, legislators aren't, you know, they're not wildlife firefighters either. So they don't, yeah, but I would love to see like field underwriting. These underwriters have to go out in the field and say, hey, you know, how would you assess this risk? Do some hands-on, not just pictures from Google Maps. Let's get that group of insurance agents together and bring some of the legislators here. It might not happen before this bill is over, but you know, over the summer or in the fall, right in here. And have them listen to real time, you know, experience of people who are trying to get insured for property that should be insurable. I would love to get half the insurance reps from all different carriers, captive and independent, and just listen to them on that bill 1511, one major piece to that. The Oregon State Fire Marshal's Office could potentially have a grant funding system that will work probably similar to what we're doing in county, where it probably go through county government first, and we can submit that funding. But the big piece that I read in the bill is that it'll have a certification program through the Oregon State Fire Marshal's Office. So once that work has been accomplished on a private landowner's home or around their area, they can have some kind of form that can be certified through the Oregon State Fire Marshal, that they can have through the insurance company to work the entire way. So I feel that that could be potentially a way that we could, get there as far as having some kind of certification showing that it met the criteria.
Yeah, I'm just worried that the certification will only get you like 3%.
Yeah, I mean,
It's gotta be,
No, it needs to be 10, 20, 30%. But, yeah, this is the one thing I forgot to share, that sister's home that I did get approved. This was a wildfire home safety assessment put out by Camp Sherman Rural Fire Protection District. And I submitted this to underwriting. It was very detailed. They've done all the things that they care. They care. They care.
Or I think we just lost the house that's under construction, it was like 2.4 million or something, I think I read, that was down the day, so, yeah, that probably didn't help.
all right, well, thank you. That's all the time we have. That's great. That was. Probably about 5 minutes. I got my 10. So, yeah, and I told you, give it a short.
but all the questions.
Yeah, you can send me an email and maybe I can try to reach out to some. Send me editors, probably. Yeah, listening.
Here's 25 people. Who are in this space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Better one on one. If you are ready.
Yeah, my. Yeah.